Did I miss the music sound check?
No, yes, you did. And we're live now. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Hiking My Feelings virtual campfire. My name is Sydney.
And the music sound check?
Oh,
no. Did I miss the music sound check?
Oh, my Lord.
No, yes, you did. And we're live now.
There we go. Love it. I love the echo. Killing it. So this is virtual campfire number 39. My name is Sydney Williams. I am the host and founder of Hiking My Feelings. We are a nonprofit organization on a mission to improve community health by creating opportunities for people to experience the healing power of nature. And that mission's been a little bit more difficult due to COVID, but we have been having an awesome time with our virtual gatherings so far. And today I am back at the Beach Hut Deli, live and direct, Rancho San Diego, California, also the ancestral land of the Kumeyaay people who landed on this beautiful hunk of Southern California long before we did. So we like to honor them and thank them for the stewarding of the land for so long. I have a couple of announcements today that I'd like to share with you guys. First things first, we have a really interesting thing happening in the outdoor industry. So as you know, February is Black History Month, and it was brought to my attention today that the nation's first Black-owned outdoor shop, Slim Pickins in Stephenville, Texas, is at the risk of losing their business due to COVID. As you can imagine, like a lot of small town businesses, like a lot of mom and pop shops, they have been really impacted by COVID-19, and the pandemic has had their revenues down by over 50%. So if you are in our Zoom chat, I'm going to drop a link to their GoFundMe, but I want to tell you a little bit of a story about Gather, because this shop, like when you go to the GoFundMe, they have an incredible YouTube video. I highly recommend you watch it. But just a quick little story here. So Slim Pickins Outfitters, the nation's first Black-owned outdoor shop, is in grave danger of closing its doors for good if we don't come together as a community and raise the necessary funds ASAP. Like so many other small independently owned businesses, Slim Pickins is in desperate need of capital to dig out of the debt. Not only will it get Slim Pickins out of debt caused by the pandemic, but it will also provide Jamaica and Heather a firm foundation to continue to build their vision for a more diverse and inclusive outdoor industry. Slim Pickins Outfitters has been a community mainstay and a purveyor of positivity in Stephenville, Texas since it was founded in 2017. It has been a fixture within the community that brings together people from all walks of life and is the town's go-to supplier of outdoor and adventure-ready goods and services. They have become a vital part of the spirit and energy of their community. When you walk into Slim Pickins, you're treated like family. That's because for Jamaica, Heather, their team, and Bill Murray, their basset hound, who is in the video, and he's so cute, there is no distinction. You're instantly welcome as part of the family. They have built a remarkable space within the community that's warm, passionate, and laid back. As they like to describe it, Stephen Chill, Texas. Slim Pickins stands apart in the outdoor industry, and they need our support. The town of Stephenville, the outdoor industry, would be a lot worse off without Jamaica and Heather sharing their endless love and passion with us all. So let's make sure Slim Pickins stays open. Let's prove that the extraordinary spirit of the outdoor community can overcome the wave of despair and harm driven by this pandemic. We're asking you to join us in donating what you can and or sharing this campaign with your friends, family, and coworkers. Every little bit helps a ton. So when you go to the GoFundMe, for anybody that's listening, it's gofundme.com/F/help-save-slim-Pickins-outfitters. And Pickins is Pickins. They have a great short film at the top of the page. I highly recommend watching it. You will get an immediate sense of what this community is all about. So let's help save Slim Pickins. It is the literal least we can do. And they are an iconic, historic, first Black-owned store for outdoor equipment in the United States. So thank you guys for supporting in that way. Some updates here for Take a Hike Diabetes. As you know, or maybe you don't, we are on a mission to hike 1 million miles for diabetes awareness this year. And last week, the end of January, we hit 5,000 miles. So I'm going to happy dance for that. I hope people in our Zoom are happy to Hansen. We are really looking forward to ramping this up. We have some great announcements coming up, including one today. So thank you to the 81 participants who have helped us raise $1,350 for this campaign. If you'd like to join, you can join us at hikingmyfeelings.org/BD. And with that, I'd love to introduce our first sponsor and guest, Phil from Ross Chocolates. Ross Chocolates is an awesome Canadian chocolate company. They make sugar-free chocolate and would love to have you guys meet Phil and learn a little bit. We dance, we turn on our cameras. Life is good. There he is.
Hey,
Hey, Phil, how are you?
coming from beautiful Vancouver, BC, as you can see.
Gorgeous. So tell us a little bit about your chocolate.
Yeah, well, you know what we've been doing at Ross Chocolate is we make premium sugar-free chocolate for the healthy living consumer, the diabetic, and those who just want to reduce the amount of sugar in their diet. So with Ross Chocolate, the diabetic doesn't have to worry about spiking their blood sugar level, for example, when they enjoy one of our chocolates. Keto dieter doesn't need to worry about packing on excessive carbs when they enjoy chocolate. Instead, there's a peace of mind knowing there's far fewer calories with Ross chocolates, but also a portion of all sales goes towards diabetic research, which is pretty unique with certainly with chocolate companies, but with most companies, I think. Plus, we have a clean label, GMO-free, gluten-free, and we sweeten with a natural stevia blend. Absolutely no aftertaste. So.
Well, that's amazing. Sorry, we're having a little bit of a technical switcheroo here. Getting this.
Well, no problem, because one of the things about Ross Chocolates is, there's a lot of great things about it's got fantastic packaging. We're giving money to help support diabetes. But the biggest selling thing with Ross Chocolates is the taste. It's definitely one of the best tasting chocolates out there right now, whether sugar-free or not. Okay, it's one of the things that we keep doing with this product is we keep winning awards for its flavor. On top of that, my desk is covered with the competition, so I know what's out there, right? So every morning I see my desk and I'm armed with a cup of coffee. I plowed through it. So anyways, we're very confident with our product. We know it's got a great look to it. It's interesting. It was actually started with Bob Ross, who initially started this 22 years ago. He was a chocolatier.
Not to be confused with the painter.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah.
No. He gets diagnosed, goes home, and because he's frustrated, gets to work on getting a great chocolate recipe without sugar. And he had a very successful one for 22 years. One of the components of that was it's a maltitol sweetened. It's a great product, tastes great. But some people have an issue with maltitol because it's hard on the digestive system, right? So what happened was just a few years ago, Bob Ross actually passed away, unfortunately with cancer. And a new owner came in about 5 years ago, quite a visionary. And he wanted to do a couple of things. One, he wanted to put in a chocolate, a sugar-free chocolate, no sugar added, that didn't have maltitol in it. So it had more of a digestive-friendly stevia blend, erythritol, all right? So which is processed by the body totally different. It's in processed in the urinary tract, so it doesn't avoid digestive issues. But the other thing that they wanted to do was be able to put a portion of all sales towards the diabetes research. So that was two things he wanted to put in place. Since then, we've really grown a lot of, we just launched in the US, so it's been a pretty rough launch year to do it. But you know what, we've got a solid product, we've got a solid company, and we're coming up with new things all the time. We have baking chips, both milk and dark, keto-friendly, sugar-free chips coming out probably the next 3 or 4 months, as well as a whole line of sugar-free chocolate-covered nuts, such as macadamia nuts, pistachios. We've done some hazelnuts. So yeah, there's a lot of things coming down the line.
That sounds amazing. So for everybody that is part of our Take a Hike Diabetes campaign, I just wanted to share with you guys. So starting in February, and we'll be doing this monthly, the February Ross Chocolates prize pool is pretty awesome because we're doing this month. Our theme for our virtual campfire and for everything else is self-care is community care. And when we do that, when we take care of ourselves, we help take care of our community. And obviously, February is like super hot on Valentine's Day for chocolate and enjoying things. So anyone who raises $25 or completes 14 activities within our challenge is entered to win one of 24 prize packs from Ross Chocolates. So we're doing a 3-bar pack that I believe do you remember what we were doing, or is it going to be a surprise? Are we doing the milk chocolate with the quinoa and the dark chocolate sea salt and the dark chocolate hazelnut? I think those are the 3 we picked.
Yeah.
They're waiting at the mailbox, so we'll see them soon.
Well, I hope they're delivered directly to the cooler there in Southern California. So
Yeah. Well, cool. So where can folks stay in touch with Ross Chocolates? Are you guys on I know you're on Instagram. What's your website? Let's send people in the right direction.
Yeah, rosschocolates.ca. So that's probably the biggest difference as opposed to .com. So rosschocolates.ca is a webpage with all the information there. And from what I understand, we can buy Ross chocolates at discount on your website. Is that right?
Soon we will have that. Yes.
All right. Well, great.
Yes, thank you so much, Phil. We're excited to be working with you, and thanks for bringing some delicious sugar-free chocolate to all of our people here.
Love what you're doing, Sydney.
Thank you. Bye. All right, up next, we've got my friend Tim McDonald. Tim is a speaker and coach who works with organizations and individuals who are facing challenges and feel stuck. He helps them get unstuck. Recognizing how fear held him back, Tim has changed his relationship with fear and has used it to get unstuck and leave toxic jobs and a 17-year marriage, move to a new city, meet his life partner, and he currently looks at having stage 4 cancer, stage 4 metastasized colon cancer as a gift. I've said that I think diabetes is a gift, and Tim has stage 4 colon cancer and he thinks it's a gift. So if you think I'm positive, Tim's your guy. He was previously the director of community at Huffington Post, founder of My Community Manager, director of communications for the Social Media Club Chicago, which is where we met, and various other jobs. While he thought climbing the corporate ladder had all the answers, he found out that looking within held all the answers he needed. Hi, Tim.
Hey, Sydney.
How are you?
I was so funny you mentioned that, when I looked at cancer as a gift, and I know you look at diabetes as a gift, so it's like so great to be here with you.
Yeah, so I'm really excited to have you here. One, because you're one of my favorite people. Tim and I met back in 2009. He was the he was the director of communications for Social Media Chicago, and I was working at a PR agency based in Chicago. And one of my clients was Oscar Mayer, and I walked into a meeting with like this tray of deli meat, and I was like, "Hi, I'm Sydney. Here's my meat. Welcome." And we've been friends ever since, and you've been a light in my life ever since then. So
how many guys can say they had a woman walk up to them and say, "Here's my meat,"
Oh man. So you have been through a lot of changes recently. I know that you've been a community builder for a lot of your career. So let's start there. Like, what has your career been like building communities? It sounds like primarily digital, but I'd love to just hear a little bit more about your career in that. And then we'll get into all the new changes in your life.
Yeah, well, right about the time you met me and I got involved with Social Media Club Chicago, I was kind of trying to, find my way. I was in real estate. If anybody remember 2008 when the market crashed, that's about the time Sydney and I met. And it was one of those things where I loved, and social media was just coming onto the scene really. And I loved connecting with people, especially because I was using it in real estate, and I got to meet all these local people in Chicago just by seeing people that were mentioning Chicago or the suburbs or buying a home. And, this thing happened where I absolutely sucked at selling real estate, but loved connecting with people. And I wanted to find something that would pay me to do this, and I heard the word community manager, and I was looking around, and I didn't find too much. There was like one community that still exists today that was for enterprise internal communications, for communities. There was one for kind of startups, but it was all focused on like all these tech startups back in the day during the dot-com bubble. And then there was this other one that was gaming communities, and they thought we were all a laughing stock because we thought communities just started when social media came around, and they had been having message boards and forums for years that they called community managers. But for me, what I was doing with Social Media Club was so much different because it wore so many different hats, and I didn't find what I was looking for. So I said, if this is an up and coming thing, why don't I create the site, for community managers, by community managers, to let people, find information that I was looking for. And if I find it, I'm going to share it so that other people can learn from me. And what I quickly realized after starting pretty slow, but now I can look back and say it was fast, but it was actually really slow at the time because I thought I wasn't getting views and I wasn't getting people interested in the first month. And, I was like, what's going on? I pressed the button, I hit publish. Why aren't they coming?
Where are they? I watched a movie called Field of Dreams once. I built it. Why are they not coming? Hi, totally relatable. The whole first 2 years of Hiking My Feelings. Continue.
So, but in reality, what I did was I was always looking for new things that were coming up. And, the one thing that happened right around that time is Google Plus came around. And I know some of you might not have even known what Google Plus was, but because it's no longer in existence, really. But that was a time when Google Hangouts were only in Google Plus. You had to be part of the circle to be part of that Hangout. And they weren't recorded. They didn't go to YouTube, nothing. And I started having this idea that I could start bringing people together and building a community on Google Plus by having them join my circle so that they could join the Hangouts that I had every Friday. And that got me noticed by other community managers to come in and be part of the conversation that was going on. And it wasn't just them finding me, but it was me starting to search online for those people. Those people that had those roles in different organizations, and reaching out to them to personally invite them to come to be part of this. So it was kind of both this outbound, outreach effect, and also the kind of creating what I like to say the magnet, so you attract people into you, is what happened. And one of the community managers that I got involved with in this was from Moz, SEO Moz. And they actually wrote an article about how brands were using Google Plus to build an audience and community. And they used me as an example with what I was doing with my community manager by inviting people into the circle to get to see it. Because at the time, Google didn't make it easy for you. You had to do all the work yourself. And since then, they made it a little bit easier, and then they got rid of it because it was actually working. But that's kind of my start in getting that. But what that did was it gave me the opportunity to be known as a leader, a thought leader in community management and community building. And one day I posted something on Facebook, and I'm sure almost everybody's seen a meme or a Venn diagram that's very similar to this. It's 3 circles. All of them were yellow, where they intersect in the middle is red, and it says what you're good at, what you're passionate about, and what pays well. And in the center, it was #win. And I said, I'm getting closer to red every day when I shared it on Facebook. And I had so many people respond to that. And one of them was a community manager that I had invited in to one of our Hangouts that we had, who was the director of community at Huffington Post. And he said, come work at Huffington Post and we'll get you there. Well, even though I wasn't good at getting jobs at the time, the one thing that I did know was employee referrals made money for those employees. So I said, my comment back to him was, well, if you're serious, pick up the phone and call me. You know how to get in touch with me. If he was going to make money off of me, I wanted him to actually do a little bit of work, So he ended up calling me, and I don't remember the whole conversation. I remember the first job he mentioned to me was they were hiring for a bunch of different positions, but the first one was a community manager for their live streaming network that they were getting ready to launch. And then he went into a whole bunch of other things that really bored the crap out of me. They were, campus driven and, politic driven and all this other stuff. I just had no interest in them. I go back to that streaming network thing that you were talking about. And really what it did was it took my love and my passion for both community building and community management and live streaming at the time. Those were the two things that I just was so passionate about and loved doing, that I said, this has my name on it. And he introduced me to the hiring manager. I interviewed with the three executives. And I'll never forget how bold I was, because their whole concept behind HuffPost Live, which is what it was at the time, was that they could bring all the comments that we got on the HuffPost site to become on air and share their opinions on air. And he said, but now Justin, who's the guy who ended up inviting me and talking to me about this job originally, he said that that's not going to happen because people that comment are totally different than people that get on camera. And I said, that's exactly true. I said, nobody is going to hit a button. This is back when FaceTime was just starting. So people could get on and FaceTime. They do that all the time with their family. But if you ask them to do it for anything else, anything that got broadcast out anywhere, they would say, no way, I can't do it. I'm not good enough. I don't have my hair done. I don't have the right clothes on, whatever it was, they couldn't do it. And I just told them that. And they said, thank you. And, we had a few other questions and everything. And I didn't hear anything for a couple of weeks. And I remember I was sitting at the pool in the Chicagoland area with my wife, and I get a call from HR at AOL HuffPost. And they were asking me all these questions about, was I eligible to work, blah, 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 blah. When would I be able to start? And I'm like, start what? And they hired me for the job. And so that's how I got involved with HuffPost. And then that opportunity just led me to being involved in so many different, other, a lot of them were volunteer, a lot of them were paid, but I just got involved in everything that I did was about how we brought people together around a common purpose with a shared purpose. And I think more than just around that shared purpose, how do we create an impact together? How do we do something that means something for all of us and for even more people? Because that's how we grow the community, is by letting people see the impact that we're having, touching them with the impact that we're creating, and then they want to become part of what you're building and what you're creating. And so, I've done it for HR. I've done it for No Kid Hungry, which helps end childhood hunger in America. I've done it with authors of the book New Power. I've done it with several different people, that I don't want to name names because I don't, because of confidentiality with who I was working with, but I've done it with several different people. And, the one thing that I realized now is, and we can get into this a little bit more in detail, but this is why I look at cancer as a gift. When I was told those 3 words, you have cancer, I could do 2 things. I could, one, get upset and question why this was happening to me, or I could look at it as an opportunity to say, why is this happening to me? What am I going to go out and create from it? And that's really what I did. It took me a couple of days to understand that, but I fully understood it. And I started just by doing a video update every week, and people really liked it. And so that's what I'm continuing to do. But now it's got me like wanting to start a podcast where I interview, not only cancer patients, survivors, and caregivers, but also people who are nutritionists, who are, doctors in the field, all relating around how what we put in our bodies impacts, our not only chance of getting cancer, but also the impacts our ability for our body to fight cancer. And so it's really been an interesting thing for me. If you have had cancer, I'm sure you can relate to this. You all of a sudden have 1,000 friends that are experts on cancer and want to give you 1,000 different opinions. And it was overwhelming at first, and I appreciate that. I love that. I love that people want to share. But the one thing that I've realized is I really want to get to this from a place of, giving factual information from credible and trusted sources so that we can all learn together. This isn't dedicated towards, my type of cancer. It's not dedicated towards, breast cancer. It's not dedicated towards brain cancer. It's dedicated towards our whole body, because I feel that if we can't integrate everything within our body and how we live, we have no chance of being able to fight off anything that happens to our body. So it really becomes something that's so important. So I know I went a little bit off tangent, but you get me so excited, Sydney, about talking about all this and bringing back the history and where it's led to, that I'm just like, I'm so excited that we're talking about this. So I'm going to shut up and let you ask me another question.
Don't shut up. You're fine. I did want to jump before we jump into cancer being a gift, because that's going to be a whole topic. I wanted to touch on the volunteer versus paid position, because you had posted about this recently in the wake of your diagnosis and this new chapter of your life where you've done so many epic things, and some of them were paid and some of them were volunteer, and how it doesn't impact the amount of impact you make isn't swung one way or the other, whether or not you get paid to do it. And I think that's one of the best pieces of advice I got from my first career mentor, Penelope Trunk, who was the founder of Brazen Careerist, who got me into all this like blogging and encouraged me to go to South by Southwest, which is where I met my boss who hired me at Weber Shandwick, which is where I got the Oscar Mayer tray of meat and then brought it to the meeting. Her best advice, the best advice I ever got was I was getting ready to graduate college, and I was like, I don't have like anything to put on my resume because everybody wants 3 to 5 years experience the second that you graduate. And I don't have that. And she was like, well, Sydney, like, go find a job description that you want, run down the list, see what experience you have. And by the way, it doesn't matter if you got paid to do that or not. If you have the experience, you have the experience. So for anybody that's listening, because the stories you just shared about your career and how it all kind of dovetailed into what you're doing now is beautiful. Any advice for folks that are listening that maybe are, especially in this pandemic time where we've got a lot of extra time, whether that's because you're unemployed or because you're underemployed or whatever the case may be.
Or because you actually realize you can get your work done in less than 8 hours and you had to be in the office for 8 hours and now you can do it in 5 and you have 3 extra hours. Shh, I won't tell anybody that happens.
Right. But. Yeah. So like any advice for anybody that's maybe looking to make a change or shift in direction, or maybe they've gotten really clear on what they actually want to do on this planet. And just kind of how to like wrap your head around, you don't always have to get paid to make an impact.
Oh yeah, well, I can tell you that I've done more things that I got paid absolutely nothing for that made a greater impact in my life and my career than I have had jobs that put money in my pocket. And I'm not just saying that because when I was talking about Social Media Club, you notice how I said I worked there, right? I never got paid $1 for that. When I started my community manager, I maybe made in total off of a couple of events I ran a few $100s. And that was over the span of 2.5 years. And I put in hundreds, if not thousands of hours into that. I worked for a campaign. Originally it started as, Free Aleppo for Syrian, conflict that was going on, and did some work with them. And that didn't pay me anything, but I knew so many people that were affected and from Syria that it really was personal to me. And I got to know so many more and the devastation that was going on there. So these are all things that I've actually taken on because I was passionate about them and they meant something to me. The one thing that I would advise is don't just try and do something because you think that it's what you want. Make sure that you actually have a reason for wanting that. And I think that gets into like what we have inside of here that this doesn't always talk with, And so when we start realizing what is so important to us, how has our life been affected by this? I never would have been a cancer advocate if I didn't have cancer. I've had relatives that have had it, but I would not have been because I didn't have that drive. I didn't have that passion. I still to this day, live streaming is now a word, right? And back when I was doing it, it was, spell checked every single time you put it in to type it. But I was doing it 12 years ago because I was passionate about how it could connect us on such a personal level that the only other thing we could do is be in the same space, physical space together. And now everybody's looking at it like it's this new revolution that we're doing because we have to do it because of the pandemic. And so it's like, that's my advice, is just find something that really means something to you and don't worry about what you're getting paid. And before I started and created all these things, I actually volunteered for so many groups, and especially when I was in real estate and social media club. That's how I got started. I just volunteered one day, and we used to serve our own beer. It was a keg that we'd get for each of our events, and I was the bartender. And what a great place to meet everybody that comes to the event, right? Is serving them beer. And a couple months later, they were like, hey, we're looking for somebody that can help with registration. Would you like that? And I've learned, if you can ever work the registration desk, one, the organizer of that event trusts you, and two, you get to meet every single person that comes in that event. And I was not the best registration person because I'd always want to get to talk with people, and then I'd build up a line behind them. But maybe the organizer liked that because it seemed like there was more, more of a crowd, kind of like the nightclub effect, to get in. But that's, those are the opportunities that I look for organizations and causes that I cared about. How can I get involved? And just go right to the organizer and ask. Everybody's looking for volunteers, and I never call people volunteers. I say, hey, do you want to come do work with us? How can I work with you? Do you want to come work with us? Because this is going to be, if I'm passionate about something, if I care about something, I'm going to have fun doing it. Now, obviously, it's a little bit more fun talking about like No Kid Hungry and ending childhood hunger than it is ending war and conflict in Syria, But for the people that are involved, being their cheerleader, seeing the amazing people that, if my skill set isn't editing video and we have somebody else on the team who's is, cheering them on and complimenting their work and sharing their work and amplifying what they do. So not only is the message getting across, but their work is getting across to other people that might want to hire them to do stuff for them. And so it's really about this, taking on this dual role of being both, a contributor and a cheerleader for everybody else on the team, so that everybody feels like they're part of something and everybody wants to do more. And the impact that you collectively make is going to be greater.
Boom, mic drop. Oh my gosh, Tim. Yes. So I want to respond, but like I would just be repeating everything that just came out of your mouth. So yes, affirmed and heard. So on the note of cancer being a gift, I really, really admire everything you said, and also the way that you were transitioning into talking about cancer being a gift really gave me a moment to pause and think about, yeah, that's exactly what happened for me in diabetes. And it's just been like, I got diagnosed. I went inward for a month. I was off social media. I didn't do anything. I didn't post anything. I completely uninstalled everything from my phone. And I just really focused on myself. And I worked on my nutrition plan. I started walking every day. I was taking my medications as prescribed and really trying to dial in my stress. And in that space, outside of the 1,000 friends who didn't have diabetes, but were experts in it, I was able to find like my own routine and my own peace. And in doing so, all of this happened. So like, let's talk about those 3 words, like what led you to go to the doctor, those 3 words, and kind of what's dovetailed out of that since that happened.
Yeah, well, right around Thanksgiving in the US, if not everybody here is from the US, I started having a pain in my right flank, I guess they call it. That's the official medical term. So it's your lower right, abdomen area. And there's a lot of organs in that part of your body. And what they did by physical exam, because after 4 days, it got progressively worse. I mean, to the point where I could barely sleep at night. So on Saturday night, I could barely sleep. Sunday, I got up. I was sitting on the couch. My wife was bugging me to go to the ER. I said, no, I want to wait, and she said, I really want you to go. And I'm like, no, no, no. And then on Sunday, I just looked at her and I said, I think I'm going to go to the urgent care clinic. And she goes, oh, thank you, go. And so I went, and they did an exam, and they didn't feel anything. There was no obvious signs of pain that would lead them to think there was internal bleeding or anything. But what they wanted to do was do a CT scan on me on Monday so they could determine what it was, thinking that it might be a kidney stone. And so I left that urgent care thinking that I had a kidney stone. And Monday morning, I called and I got an appointment for the CT scan. All this is in an area where I can walk. I can walk to the urgent care. I can walk to where the CT scan was. And so I walked over, I got the CT scan. They said, don't call us. We'll have the results to your doctor in, within an hour. They'll contact you when they have the results. And about an hour later, I was at home and I got the call from the urgent care place and said, would you be able to come in and talk to the doctor about your results? And I said, yeah. And I never forget looking at Lori as I left saying, because the two options for kidney stones that we had kind of briefly talked about on Sunday were, one, there's a prescription that they can give you which helps reduce the size of the kidney stone so you can pass it naturally, and the other one is like an ultrasound where they break up the kidney stone. And I told her as I left the house, I said, I guess they're not giving me the prescription. And I went in, and it was so weird because when you go to a doctor's office, you always got to fill out the forms and check in and do everything. There was none of that. It was just like, oh, you're Tim? Here, we got a room in the back. The doctor's going to see you in a minute. Just come on here. And within a minute, the doctor was in there and he had a piece of paper. And he just looked at me and he goes, well, I got the results from your CT scan. You have cancer. And I just looked at him and I think I had a smile on my face like I do right now. And I said, okay. And he goes, well, do you have any family history of it? And I said, no. And then he went through my symptoms again. And, looking back, I probably did have some of the symptoms, but I didn't have the classic ones. Like I didn't see blood in my stool. My weight loss, I did have significant weight loss, but I changed my diet significantly when I had high blood pressure to go to a grain and fruit and vegetable diet, which was, much healthier. So that all started, the weight loss, when I started doing that. We were babysitting our granddaughter, while our daughter was, working from home and before she got into daycare, and they keep their house like at 67. We keep ours like at 71 or 72. And so I was in there and I was cold. I would get the chills all the time, but I just thought it was from the air conditioning. At night, I started getting sweats like I never had sweats before, but I thought it was just because I was getting old, and so none of these symptoms like jumped out at me as cancer. You have cancer, go get checked. But so we talked about that. I don't have a family history of really, definitely not colon cancer, and outside of a couple, my aunt and my grandma having, breast cancer, and my grandfather had esophageal cancer. Nobody really had any cancer outside of that. All my other aunts and uncles, my other, my mom and dad, nobody. And so my other grandparents, it was just like one set of grandparents, and then my aunts on both sides of that. And I was just like, this is so weird. But my thoughts didn't go to the why. It was really about, immediately I started thinking about what can we do? And the guy at the urgent care knows me because I go there more than I go to the doctor. I'm not a doctor kind of person. It's funny to say that now because I've been to the doctor more times in the last 2 months than I have been in the last 20 years, But I really, I just looked at him and I said, what now? And his response was, well, I know you don't have a primary care doctor, and I know you have a couple options. You could go to Moffitt, which is a big, world-renowned cancer center here in Tampa, or you can, go to like a gastroenterologist, I guess is what I forget what the name is, but a doctor that does a colonoscopy on you. And I shouldn't say guy, a person who does a colonoscopy on you. But he goes, I have a friend if you don't mind driving. And so he actually called his friend who did colonoscopies and was really well known, and got me in that afternoon. So when I walked home, I knew I had to tell my wife. And I walked in and she looked at me and she goes, so what's going on? And I just said, I have cancer. We need to go see a guy about getting a colonoscopy right now. And so I didn't give her time to process and think about it because I knew how she would be. She would be devastated, and she still is devastated. I shouldn't diminish her feelings and her, how she is. But it really was one of those things where I just knew her so well that I just knew if we went into the action phase, it would produce a lot more productive results. And I think the processing in my head that was going on was something that I had been training for the last 8 years, which is this whole essence of the fear that we have that usually puts us into those dark places where we don't want to share, where we don't want to acknowledge, where we want to place blame. And I think that my relationship with fear and how I've created a much healthier relationship with my fear helped me process it that so quickly, so that when I heard those 3 words, I knew instantly that it wasn't going to go to that place. It was going to go to this place. And I knew that, and I've come to learn this is why, another reason why I call this a gift, is I don't have cancer. My wife and I have cancer. She is every much a part of this as I am. She might not have the cancer in her body. She might not sit in the chemo chair. She might not have the side effects, but she is with me every step of the way and has to deal with seeing me weak. Right before I got on this call, we got home from watching our granddaughter today, and it was the first time I'd been out in a while, and I was just drained. I'm still tired from last week's chemo, and I just took like a 40-minute nap, and she fed me dinner right before I came up and got on. So to say that she doesn't have this is diminishing what she's going through as a caregiver, and it's really, I think it's so incredible. I think just not knowing what I had learned going back, I said 8 years, it's probably been about 10, but really about 8 years ago, what I've learned and what I've picked up about how we deal with our fear, how we acknowledge our fear, how we process our fear is so helpful in dealing with situations that are life altering for people. And to be here and to sit here and say, and still say it with a smile. And even when I was with the doctor, he was making sure I was okay, because not too many people that are told they have cancer are actually smiling and laughing and making jokes with you. They're, crying. He thought I was using that as a mask to hide, the pain and the agony and the frustration and the anger that I was going through. But I told him I wasn't. And he knew me from seeing me before that I wasn't that kind of person, but he wanted to make sure. But that's how I was able to deal with that, is because I have such a healthy relationship with my fear that I told it that, there was nothing it was going to tell me that was going to make the cancer go away. There was nothing it was going to tell me.
Nothing. And that's the thing that's so interesting to me, Tim. So for folks that don't know, I wrote a book in 2019, and Tim was also working on a book in 2019 about fear. So one, did that book get finished? Is it out there, and did I miss that? And two, if not, would you write it differently now?
It's not out there for 2 things that happened, and I'll briefly touch on those. One was one of those toxic jobs I left,
Yes,
which
sir.
gave me a whole new perspective. And right after I left that toxic job, COVID hit, which gave me a whole new perspective on fear. Because I think we're still going through it today. But if anybody remembers back in March and April and May of last year, there was severe fear going on about businesses shutting down, people losing jobs, how we were going to pay for things. And, that was the one area that I never really was able to tap into before, because most business people wouldn't talk about fear. And now all of a sudden I had people openly saying they didn't have answers. They didn't know what was going on. Those are all keywords for, fear is playing a role in your decision making. Welcome to the club, So the other answer to your question is, yes, I am going to write it differently. And I'm actually getting more inspired to actually come out with that now, weave in the stories of COVID, weave in the stories of what I learned from cancer, and also what the people I interviewed from before, because this is so relevant to just about every aspect of our life. I still to this day go through almost every single moment of every single day where my fear is playing a role in some sense. It's just I don't recognize it as much, is because I've just come so accustomed, kind of like working out. When you work out, the first time you feel all the muscles, right? And then, the 100th time you're like, let's go another 100 miles, and that's kind of how it is with dealing with your fear. It becomes this natural reflex that you have, that you just are able to process and deal with it in a totally different way that's almost instantaneous.
Man, I can't wait to read that book. And I just, for as urgent as mine felt to get out, I'm really glad that the side things happened and that kind of delayed the publishing of yours, because it's going to be so much more powerful now. Like, you have so much more to offer as far as like how to navigate life through fear. So is there anything that you're scared of now? I know you've redefined your relationship with fear. You have a different relationship with it altogether. But I mean, that doesn't mean you don't have fears, right?
Oh no, I still have plenty of fears. And let me just, go into that a little bit, right? Just very simply is I believe that there are two different kinds of fear. One is a rational fear and one is an irrational fear. And rational fears are things like jumping out of a plane without a parachute, jumping in front of an oncoming locomotive, sticking your hand in a pot of boiling water. I don't know about you, but I still want my fear because I don't want to do any of those things and end up dead or maimed from doing those. So I want my fear. I don't want to let go of it. However, all the irrational things that fear brings up for us, our fear has a very good way of masking it as rational fear. And what that means is if you lose a job, if you get a disease, if you get rejected or are thinking about asking somebody out or for marriage, right? All these things that normally are some of the biggest moments in our life that we just freak ourselves out over. What ifs? What's going to happen? What will they think? All these things that come into our head. That is your fear. And that is your fear rationalizing you to believe that because of all the past situations that it knows you've been through. And it's trying to pull those in. But what you can do is you can actually have a conversation with your fear. And I actually used to write this out. I would write it out on a piece of paper. Now I just do it internally in my head. But when I first started, I had to write it out. And I would have a conversation with my fear and I would remind it that those situations that they were bringing up ended up okay. Like when I was afraid of not having a job and I started my community manager and I was frustrated that nobody was going to come, that led to me getting a job at HuffPost, right? And, when I got divorced, I thought it was going to be the end of the world. And instead, I ended up seeing light and life in a whole new way that I never thought existed before. And thankfully, I ended up meeting my current wife who, is like, I never knew love could be like this. And it's just such a special thing. So, I just have this conversation and remind fear every time it brings up those examples of the past that it's trying to rationalize why I should be afraid of this, that just to trust me because it trusted me before and everything was okay. Even if I got hurt a little bit, I got back up and I was better for it. So let me have this opportunity to try it. And I love this comparison of a bullfighter with his cape. If you're the bullfighter and your cape is your fear, does that bullfighter ever hold the cape out in front of them when the bull comes at him, or does it hold it out to the side? Because when you hold it out to the side, the bull goes right by you. When you hold it out in front of you, you're probably going to get mauled. So the best thing to do is never let go of your fear, but always remind it they can be out here at the side. And I think that's like the
Put
biggest.
that on a t-shirt, Tim.
That's the biggest way I think that we can start to. I mean, and I'm not saying this is easy. It takes time. And I mean, don't get frustrated with yourself. Don't get upset if you don't think you're having progress, because just like I thought, 1 month and not having people come to my blog the first time I started it, this takes time. It takes the reps that you need to put in to get used to how to deal with it. And I fully believe that writing is the best way to do it at first, but then you can start having those conversations with fear in your head. And then it also becomes instantaneous, because like when he said, you have cancer, the first thing that went in my head was, fear, not now. We'll talk about this later, and it just exited and I was my normal self. I'm not normal, but I was myself, and I was able to laugh and I was able to find out what steps were next. And so that's really the biggest way I think that we can process our fears, first by realizing what's rational and what's irrational, but then secondly, start having a dialogue with our fear, knowing that we don't want to let go of it, but knowing that it doesn't always need to be in front of us.
Good Lord. I need memes. I need t-shirts. I need a whole merch line with those reminders. Oh my goodness. So let's talk about what you're doing now. So you've been diagnosed. How has community changed for you from pre-cancer diagnosis to today? Like, what is the cancer community like? What are you doing in the cancer community? How are you helping your people?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I will say that, and I may get a little teary-eyed here, but the first thing that I will say, and the first way that I realized cancer was a gift, was by seeing the outpouring of support by people in all areas of my life. It just wasn't friends and family. It was people that, back from those OG days of social media in Chicago. It was from people that I worked with, the authors, of the book that I worked for. It's been from people I don't even know because somebody else posted about it and they saw it and wanted to contribute. And it's not just the financial aspect of it. It's also the people have written cards to me and people have messaged me. And I got to tell you, I ended up getting into Moffitt via somebody that I knew from a networking group that I had started in the suburbs of Chicago. And she lives down here in Florida now and knew a researcher at Moffitt that she had helped. She's a realtor, so she had helped them buy a house. And that researcher actually followed my case until I was approved to get scheduled into Moffitt. And I mean, that all comes from one person 12 years ago that I talked to on a very rare basis. And that just shows the power of this community. And, when we talked about volunteering before, you might have an end goal in mind, but don't ever forget the seeds that you plant along the way. Because if you keep nurturing them, if you keep watering and giving them sunlight, they are going to come back and provide you a harvest like you never would imagine. And that's, I think, what I started realizing from all this was just that outpouring of support, from people. But another way that I found support is I just happened to luck out. One of the first times I posted on Facebook, somebody that I knew from 12, 15 years ago posted about me getting better or something, and then tagged one of his friends who was in a cancer group. And the friend friended me, and then messaged me and said, "Hey, we're in this men's cancer group. It's for emotional support. If you're interested in joining, I think you'd be a great addition." And so I've joined that group. It's one of two that I've joined so far. I didn't search anything out, but there's one thing I can tell you about Facebook groups is there's a couple good ones and a lot of shitty ones. And this was a good one because it gave me what I was looking for. It gave me the kind of they have guidelines in their rules that they call them, but it's not to talk about, what kind of treatment's the best, what kind of diet's the best. It's really geared around, should you put pineapple pizza on pizza or, pineapple on pizza, that's the kind of conversation. But it is also about, what we're going through and that it's okay to be down. It's an emotional support group for men that are either survivors, patients, or caregivers with cancer. And I have just made so many friends from there. And it's just so nice when you're talking with somebody who had or has stage 4 colon cancer that metastasized to their liver. Now, I've learned that genetically we all have different types of cancer. So even though we might have the same type of cancer, the actual variant of that cancer is different, and which means the type of treatments that we can get are different. And this is another gift I've learned, is to become your best advocate as a patient, not to rely on anybody else to be the expert. You are your own expert. You are the one who is going to fight for yourself. Nobody else is going to do that for you. And so being informed and going in and being able to talk to doctors is a life-changing thing for me. It's so different than I was before. I was brought up, you went to the doctor, you listened to what they said, and you did what they said. You didn't ask any questions, And here I am now going in saying, well, they said they were going to schedule another scan the mid to late February. Can we just get that scheduled now? And he looked at my chart and said, oh yeah, we can go ahead and schedule that. And then I said, he set up the appointment for right after to go through the results with me. And I said, okay, so after that, are we going to start, if we start seeing some progress, are we going to be at a place where we can start looking at different treatment options? And he looked at my chart, and that's when he told me about the genetic type of cancer that I had, and said, well, really, with the type of cancer you have, chemo is going to be the best treatment, at least for now. And so that'll probably be the course for at least the next 6 months, meaning like I'm 2 months in, I got another 4 months of it. So really that support network of finding people that are going through the same thing as you is a lot better than 1,000 people who aren't going through the same thing as you, but all have an opinion about what you're going through. Because when you relate to somebody that actually has what you have, I mean, if you haven't gone through chemo, and I'm not just saying chemo, I'm saying chemo that I'm going through, that is like 3 different kinds of chemo medicines. It's a very aggressive approach that they don't do on most patients because either they're too old or too weak to be able to do it with and not in good enough health. And I am, according to them, I'm young and I'm in overall good health other than my cancer. So so that being said, they put me on this, but I got to tell you, it kicks my ass. And it's not in a way that like is like normal, like you're just like, oh, I got to throw up, or I got diarrhea, or, you know, I got this. Yes, I have had diarrhea. Yes, I have felt nauseous. Yes, my hair is starting to fall out in the back, you know, and probably in other places. So I'm probably going to be shaving my head. A high school buddy of mine wants to shave his head with me and help raise some money for me. So we'll probably be doing that in the next couple of weeks. But, you know, it's the main side effect for me is this lack of energy. And I just don't have it in me to do the things that I normally do. And I tried working out like 3 weeks ago, and I was just doing stuff like push-ups and jumping jacks, you know. And I did jumping jacks, and the first time since I had my colonoscopy, I felt that pain in my right flank again. And I said, this isn't for me. You know, this isn't the type of exercise for me. So I asked in that group, what type of exercises do you guys do? Because I tried this and it wasn't working. And so the support that they gave me, everybody has a different opinion, but everybody's got a different kind of cancer. And so learning the people who have that, you know, colorectal type of cancer and what kind of exercise you do, you know, if you're used to working out, you're used to doing your core, right? And that's the worst thing you can do if you have colorectal cancer, because that's where the masses are, and that's where the nodes are and everything. So for me, it's really going to be like looking at, you know, doing a stationary bike, walking, you know, joining Sydney and Barry on a hike one time when we can do that again, you know, and doing those types of things are so much more important than building up the muscle mass and building my core back up again. And so just having that support, not randomly Googling it, not, you know, randomly getting it from a stranger, but getting it from people who are going through, that's like what the community has provided for me. And what I want to give back is to, you know, really start in 2 ways is, you know, I've learned how to deal with this in a way that I think most people never would dream of being able to deal with it. And I know there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of dreams of what they want to see happen in their lives. And I would love to work with those people. And this is free for, I'll give you 90 minutes. You know, you can just get in touch with me and I will work with you for 90 minutes and we will try and figure out what's keeping you stuck in that place that's in that dream, that's not moving you into action and doing. And I can assure you and I've done this for years, coffee meetings, lunches, I've always done it. But now that I'm formally doing it, every single person that I've worked with, whether they decide they want to work with me or not, and I won't try and sell you at the end, you have my promise, I'm not that kind of person. But even the people that don't decide to keep working with me afterwards have all followed back up with me and said, you made such an impact with what you told me, because now I'm making progress on something that I haven't made progress on in 2 years. Or now I've been in this funk and you got me out of the funk just by giving me this one suggestion. And so I'm not a coach that's just going to ask a lot of questions. I'm actually going to give you a little bit of direction and have you think about things in a different way. And I think that's one of the gifts that I have is to be able to listen and apply all these experiences and all these you know, these people that I know that have gone through and shared their experiences with me, to be able to apply it to your situation and what you're going through. So that's one way. The other way that I'm really excited about is I've always done live streaming, but you know, I bought a domain called thecancergift.com, and I want to start doing that podcast where I interview, you know, caregivers, patients, and survivors, but also nutritionists I want to start talking with doctors. I want to talk about some alternative methods that are out there and natural methods that are out there. When we say alternative methods, those are usually the traditional methods. The thing that we use today in medicine is a modern medicine, you know? So it's looking at all different aspects of this and giving people a very educated and informed opinion that's not dedicated towards one type of cancer, but really dedicated towards, if you don't have cancer, what can you do for your body now that's going to make an impact of reducing your chance of getting cancer? If you do have certain types of cancer, what can you do naturally, within your body to help, either keep that cancer at bay or fight and help reduce that cancer? And if you have cancer, what is it like emotionally to be going through that? And if you're a caregiver, what does that mean? And, one of the guys I met, Lee, he has a cancer called We Have Cancer, and he changed the name of it because he used to focus on colon cancer, but it's We Have Cancer, because that gets to the point, and he helped me realize that's what we are going through. That's what Lori and I are going through. It's not just me going through this, it's both of us going through it. And so I love that aspect of his podcast, and I'm not stealing from him, I'm just borrowing from him and making that part of what I'll go through too, is the caregiver and how it's a team effort when we do that.
Oh my gosh, Tim, I could talk to you for hours. Thank you so much for joining us. So for anybody that's interested in taking you up on that offer, where can they find you online? Where can they get in touch? And what's the best way to take you up on that?
Okay, well, this is what a good relationship I have with my fear right now is. I have a website that I started, and it's still got some of the ipsilorium text in it, so I'm going to give that URL out because it is functional for you to get an idea of who I am. And if you go to work with me, or I forget what the wording is, you can actually book a 90-minute session with me, and it's all automatic on there. So you can go to unstuck.fun.
Perfect. Unstuck.fun. And are you active on Instagram these days? Where are you on social media sharing your journey?
I am. Well, mostly I do it on Facebook, but I am, I bought the cancergift.com, which I'll be sharing shortly on there. I am on Instagram. It's Tim A. McDonald, and just about everywhere else. You can either find me at T.A. McDonald, Tim A. McDonald, or Tim.McDonald. Those are like the three places that I like everywhere. My first choice is T.A. McDonald. My second choice is Tim McDonald. And my third choice is Tim A. McDonald. So.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tim. And I'm probably going to have you back. We got way more to talk about. So thank you. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night. Take a good nap. And if you feel like sticking around, stick around. Otherwise, give Lori a big hug for us, and we'll talk to you soon.
I'm going to try for a little bit. I want to hear
some
of this.
Okay, perfect. Awesome. Great. Sweet. Well, then we'll see you. Thank you. Howi Spangler is up next. He is the frontman and lead guitar for Ballyhoo. So I'm going to read a quick little intro while Howi joins us, turns on his audio and his camera here, like The Price is Right. So a little bit about Ballyhoo. Through 25 years and 8 independent albums, the last 4 on their own Right Coast Records, Ballyhoo have earned the exclamation point, which marks their name. Starting in the basement of their mom's Aberdeen, Maryland home, we have to talk about that, rocking out on guitar and drums respectively, practicing every day, brothers Howi and Donald Spangler formed their proto-punk band in the mold of Green Day and Nirvana, with an eye toward the emerging ska genre led by Goldfinger, Sublime, 311, and No Doubt. The group's 8th and most recent studio album, the breezy, ska-fueled, hook-filled Message to the World, on their own Right Coast Records, finds the self-declared beach rockers growing up in public, accepting the responsibility of adulthood while still hanging on to their dreams of world domination. That's so relatable. I'm going to stop there. That's amazing. How are you, Howi?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. So, man, first of all, I want to identify myself as a person that you have interacted with on social media, because my first time seeing Ballyhoo was in 2019, February 15th at the Observatory in San Diego, California. And as a person living with type 2 diabetes, I did not know that I was at the risk of having a hypoglycemic episode, which is when your blood sugar goes low and then you lose all control of your body. And then following that, if you don't get help, diabetic coma and death. So we were like 3 songs into the set. I tried to find the set list online so I could be like, I was going down when you were singing Mixtape, but I don't know if that was a song. But it was wild. And I like completely lost control of my body. My husband and our friend Tim had to take me out of the venue. The bouncers thought I was drunk because a hypoglycemic episode presents like being intoxicated. But I made it back in time for the set with really good seats, because after you have a hypoglycemic episode, they put you in the disabled section where you can sit down and you're closer to the stage. So that was me. I thought you were playing me out. Like, I was like, if this is how I have to go, Ballyhoo's not a bad soundtrack for the end of my life, but I'm really thankful to be here. And I'm really happy to have you here. So I'd love to hear just a little bit about you, how you got started in music, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
Yeah. Wow. First off, incredible story. I think that like I'm pretty sure I remember hearing that story, or maybe you told me that story.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's wild. That was a fun I'm glad you got
Yeah, it was. And so wait, so that was you, Expendables, and was there another band on that tour?
I think it was Catastro.
That sounds about right. Possibly. Yeah. All right. Cool. Well, there we go. So how'd you get started? You have you guys have been doing this Ballyhoo thing for a minute.
Yeah, a lot of minutes. I just found a tape actually today. I posted on my Facebook, but found a tape of the band rehearsing in February 4th, 1996, 25 years ago today.
What?
Yeah, I just happened to find it. We're cleaning the house out and stuff and kind of spring cleaning. And I found it and I was like, let me put this in. I just picked this USB cassette tape deck up and popped it in as I've been transferring. And yeah, it was like, and right at the top, I'm all dorky and I'm like, okay, Ballyhoo, February 4th, 1996, 2:30 p.m. at 35 seconds or whatever, just something so dorky. And I'm 15 years old. It's just like wild. So yeah, 1995, we started the band in our mom's basement. And my brother and I had always wanted to be in a band since we were kids. Our dad was always very supportive and he didn't like push music on us, but we were interested, and he helped us. Like he would buy like little instruments and things, and drum pads and guitars and stuff and keyboards and things when we were kids, and then take us to shows. Like my first show was I was 6 years old. It was Rat and Poison in DC, I think, in '87, and all this stuff was popping at that point. And so like I remember just being there and seeing like everybody in the crowd and being surrounded, and people are singing all the lyrics, and just the vibe. It was loud, and it was dark in this room, but there was these lights and sound coming from the stage. And I just remember thinking how awesome it was. And I saw Bret Michaels. He did something. Those guys were probably like 22 years old or something at that point. And Bret Michaels is like humping the stage, and there's like smoke, just like, that's the coolest thing ever, 6 years old. And so that's kind of what made me want to start a band. And we finally did. It took 7 years or so to actually do it, but yeah, here we are.
So from humping stages and smoke to Maryland beach rock, that is a great way to go. I like how it started. So what was we are like, as a nonprofit, we're in like the beginning stages of our journey, and I liken where we're at to a lot of our friends that are in the early stages of their musical journey. I don't know if you're familiar with Brennan Clemente, but we share a lot of the same like trajectory stories about like we just keep going, and every time we want to quit, we just keep going, and he'll make another song, and I'll write another post or something, like just to keep the momentum going. What was the intro like to starting this career? And do you remember the moment where you were like, oh, I think we have a shot at doing this? Because a lot of people have dreams of doing music, but not very many are as fortunate to be able to do it full time and do records and go on tour. So like, what was that moment, if you remember it, and where were you? Like, take us to that place.
I mean, at the time, I didn't think that I was, launching a career, because I wanted to do it. I knew that like, I want to be a rock star. That was what we, as kids, we looked up to all those rock stars, and I didn't know that I'd be launching a career. It was just something that was fun, and like, yes, this is going to be so much better than having a job and all that. But it was just fun, and then I guess I just kept at it. I just loved the feeling. I loved playing guitar and singing and expressing myself in that way. And I guess it was like, we put out our first record in 2000. So this is about 5 years after we started the band. It was expensive to record back then and release a record, but so put out the record in 2000, and it did all right. Like, all our friends bought it. I only pressed 1,000 copies, and then we kind of hit this weird lull for a couple years. I just didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to get us out there. I had, like, we didn't have a van. There was no, like, we didn't tour. We played shows in the area, and like whenever we could, and then we had some cool opportunities pop up in 2001 with a local radio station, HFS, put us on a couple of their big shows. And that really started to feel like something, and there was some momentum there. And then like 02, 03, things just sort of like dipped out, and like our bass player at the time like had a job and couldn't do certain shows, and the commitment wasn't fully there, and I just wasn't sure what to do. I didn't even know what kind of sound like we should be doing at that point. The record that we put out was a mixture of different things that we loved, and it's kind of a shit show, honestly. It's just like funk rock meets reggae, but like punk, but like hard rock. It's just weird kind of thing going on. It wasn't until probably, I don't know, 2006, we put out our second record, and then I started seeing some things happening. Do It For The Money came out, and people really loved it, and we tapped into a sound that not really nobody was doing it in our area. We weren't the first ones to do it, but in our area, the Baltimore scene, nobody was doing it. And there had been like reggae rock bands in the 90s, but it kind of died out. And then 2006, it just kind of picked up again. And we left, and we actually went on the road for the first time in April of 2006. And that was probably when I was like, okay, like this is how you do it. Like you get a van and you just go. You start, you know what I mean? You just book some shows and you go and you hook up with other bands and make it happen. And just doing the shows, coming back from that tour, the van caught on fire. Like there's all these, like all the bad things happened, but it was all so like awesomely bad, it was just like the best. And I think it was like then we were like, okay, this is it. We got this now. Let's just keep doing this. And I was all over MySpace because, it just kind of become a thing. Or I guess MySpace was at the peak at this time. And I was messaging fans back and all, like on this thing like 8 or 10 hours a day, just like in the comments and just engaging. But I didn't know that that's what you had to do. I just did it because it felt right. There wasn't like a rule book or anything. And yeah, I don't know. We just kind of kept going with it. And my love for it, there's definitely the times where you're just like, I hate this. I want to go home. I want to quit. You definitely have that. It's hard to tour, but I just loved it too much, and that's really what set it off for me, I think.
I can relate to that. And I think that's kind of one of those things the story that I tell when I think about like, how do you keep going to get to whatever your version of the top is? And not everybody has big dreams to be like a famous pop star, but like my friend Hannah is a competitive skydiver and she won the world meet. Like you can win a world championship as a skydiver. And she did. And I asked her, I was like, so what's the difference between you and somebody who hasn't done that before? Because like in skydiving in particular, you don't have to necessarily be like a world-class physically fit athlete. You just have to have the resources to do it and to keep going. And she was like, it's exactly that. It's like, honestly, how bad do you want it? Because there are always going to be obstacles and there will always be something trying to get in your way. It's just how much do you want to have that stay in your way, or how much do you want to overcome that? So I really appreciate the van caught on fire, all the things that could go wrong did, but like that was the fun stuff that makes really good memories. So I want to talk a little bit about touring and how you guys got into that and how that has changed your life and how that's also impacted your life. Like what was a tour schedule like for Ballyhoo prior to COVID, and what was it like not being on tour last year?
Okay, so part A, we just, as I was saying before, we kind of like, you grow up playing shows and you meet other bands. The more you do it, I was really getting into the Baltimore scene. You just meet other bands through that, and you find that common ground. You find a band that kind of sounds similar, and you're like, let's do some shows together. And these guys, it was this band, Rude Buddha, and another band called 33 West. And one guy from each band is myself, this guy Jake, and then Nick. We all took chunks of the country, basically, and just started cold calling and emailing and MySpacing venues, promoters, and just saying, hey, we got this tour we're putting together. And this is about 2 months before the tour. We got this thing we're putting together, and we would love to come through. And, and I was, all day on the phone and email and MySpace and all that. And between the three of us, we put together a 6-week tour, and it was like a feat. It was, we were really proud of it. And like, man, we didn't get paid a lot of the time. I mean, we were driving really far. Like I said, the van caught on fire. Like, there was a lot of crazy things happening. But yeah, I tell bands all the time, like artists hit me up like, hey, how did you guys kind of get started? It's like, yo, just get out of town, like hook up with another band, like, a couple states over or a state over, whatever, and then let them put you in front of their crowd, and then it's called a gig swap, and then you reverse and you put them in front of your crowd, and then you just sort of grow it, and then you go back 2 months later on your own, and just keep doing that, and then just grow outward. So that's what we did. We just kept doing it, just like anything else. If you do it long enough and you stay consistent, something is going to happen. And part B of your question, I forgot now. I'm sorry.
Part B was, did I forget?
Yeah, it was like we were talking about touring and
Touring. So what was like a general, like, what was tour life before COVID, and did you have a tour scheduled for 2020?
Yes. Oh yeah, we had oh my God, 2020 was gonna be the year. Like we done all this work. Like, we've been putting in work for decades at this point, right? But like the last like 5 years, 2 to 3 years especially, we were really putting in the work, like grinding on the road, 200 shows a year, just putting out music and doing everything we could, staying connected, like engaging with the fans online. And we built up like enough momentum to where like the money started looking really good. And like we were even talking about getting a bus for the first time. I mean, we had a bus on Warped Tour, but we kind of shared it with other guys. Getting our own bus in for last summer 2020. We're going to do a bus tour, and we were talking about making it like an annual thing until eventually we can do it all year round. But it's all about growth. But we were finally talking about it. We're like, we earned it. Like the money's there. Let's do this. And then we get off that tour. We came out with it was Iration and Iatera came off the tour. And everything just went away. Like jobs just started disappearing one after another, dominoes. We were about to have this big 2 weeks after that tour. We were about to have these 2 big shows that like the ticket sales were flying. Like we'd never done ticket sales like that in these areas, and we just felt it. It was going to be huge. There was all this buzz. Just like the day of the show, it's like, yeah, we got to cancel it. It's too weird. And we were already talking about like, because we go to the merch table every night. We go there and we're like meeting people, shaking hands and hugging and hanging out. You got the drunk guy spitting in your face for 20 minutes saying the same thing over and over again. The things. And like, I was like, maybe we won't go to the merch table. Let's play the show. We'll thank everybody for coming out, and then we'll just go straight to the green room and everybody can go home. That's where we were at, already talking about because of how weird it was. And then like an hour later, it's like, yeah, the show's canceled. And then the next day the show was canceled. And then the following week in Florida, we had like 5 shows. I think 3 or 4 of them were festivals, all gone. And we started wrapping our minds around it. We're like, oh, we're never going to play again. Like we need to get jobs. It's like, it's weird. It's scary. It's, it's the equivalent of like anybody else that feels like they're about to lose their job, super weird.
Man, and I can relate. So 2019, my husband and I, so at the end of 2018 is like mid 2018 is when we started this. And by the end of 2018, we sold everything we owned. We moved into a van old enough to buy beer, 98 Chevy. Her name's Ruby. She's a gem, literally. 2019, 140 events around the US. I wrote a book. I was a week into my book tour. It was my first event at Joshua Tree National Park. That was the first one to get canceled. And we were supposed to go through the US and Canada. And then it was just like the dominoes, and everything got just destroyed after that. So what, like, was I'll Be Okay on your radar before COVID, or did that come as a function of like all of these things happening?
Yeah, I mean, you know, it ultimately came from those dark feelings that you get every now and then. You know, I've always had those, but definitely a catalyst was being off the road and feeling like things are just over. You know, and you know, and I think at the time I was sitting right here, and I was trying to do something. I was trying to. Oh, I know what it was. I was going to do a live stream. I was doing these live streams every Wednesday night, just kind of sitting here playing for fans. And I just got in this weird funk where, like, I don't feel like doing that tonight. And I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it. I just got super down all of a sudden. It was that moment where, like, you feel like you have a black cloud over your head and everybody else has sunshine. Like, it's just you know, and you're in this weird vacuum. And nothing could get me out of it. And luckily, somehow I picked up the guitar instead of just kind of going, you know, not doing anything or watching TV or something. I picked up my guitar, started strumming, and just started singing. And I've been playing with this capo lately. I hadn't written a song on a capo before. I had that on there, and it would immediately it just came, and like I just started singing, and within 20 minutes it was written, you know. And I hadn't done that really in that way since the last depressing song I wrote, like 10 years or 14 years before that. A song called Close to Me. I don't know. It's strange. You tap into something, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And so I would love to hear you sing a song for us. And if it is I'll Be Okay, one of the things I did want to bring up, because I love this, on your website for this song, you said 100% of the first month's proceeds will go to BetterHelp Tour Support, an organization that provides counseling services and mental health tools for touring professionals. So what was working with them like, and like, what was that support available for formerly touring professionals when COVID hit and everything was canceled?
You know, to be honest, I don't know if it existed. The organization is actually called Light Hope Life, and BetterHelp was the one. It was like the vehicle to help you get there. And I think they developed this once everything started happening, because you started hearing about, like, well, everybody talks about the bands and stuff, but nobody talks about the crew and like the personnel. It's like, you know, when I lose my show, I can get on Facebook or YouTube and play songs and make some donations, some tips, you know. Not necessarily true for a crew guy or crew girl, you know. It's like they may not be a musician, or maybe they are a musician, but they don't have a following. They haven't spent years developing that, you know. They just work behind the scenes, and they work super hard, and people don't think about that. So that was really cool, that because we were talking about, like, we got to do something with this song, like, you know, for someone with mental health. And then we found out about the tour support thing. I'm like, oh yeah, there's plenty of, like, you know, people that crew people that I know that were in a dark place, or, you know, really bummed out. So I was like, yeah, let's give something to them. And so, yeah, we did that. Just took the whole first month and just gave it away. You know, I mean, I sat here, I wrote the song in 20 minutes. I recorded it for free. You know, there was, you know what I mean? There was no overhead. It's like, we uploaded it for free. It's just, why not, you know? So.
Yeah, I love that. Well, hit it, man.
All right. Want you to tell me what I want to hear, but that won't help at all. I think I really want to live in fear, 'cause it keeps me on my toes. And I was never good at volleyball, but I still love the back and forth. Pretty good at feeling sorry though. I will never pass the torch around and around and never complete. There's a hole in the circle. Some days I'm an inconsolable mess, not feeling the love. I just need some time to hate on myself, and I'll be okay. Yes, I'll be okay. We could talk about this all night, but you're never getting through. My defenses in the front line are impenetrable, and I'm alone in a crowded room, and it's dark when it's lit too. Step away before I drag you down, or get fitted for cement shoes. Around and around and never complete. There's a hole in the circle. Some days I'm an inconsolable mess, not feeling the love. I just need some time to hate on myself, and I'll be okay. Yes, I'll be okay. You to tell me what I wanna hear, but that won't help at all. I think I really wanna live in fear, 'cause it keeps me on my toes. Around and around and never complete. There's a hole in the circle. Oh, some days I'm an inconsolable mess, not feeling the love. I just need some time to hate on myself, and I'll be okay. Yes, I'll be okay. It's nobody's fault, I'm just a little fucked up, and I'll be okay. Yes, I'll be okay. Oh, oh, oh.
Yay, 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 yay. I love that song. When you released that, I listened to it and I will never forget. I was sitting, so we live at the Reggae Ranch. I don't know if you've heard of it. If you haven't, I'll tell you about it. It's amazing. Our friends Sue and Dustin own this property out in Julian. It's mountains east of San Diego, California. 9 acres. It's absolutely stunning. And they're creating this beautiful retreat for artists to come write music and just like jam and have an amazing time. And you're out in nature and it's like so nice. And so I was listening to this song and the lyric, I just need some time to hate on myself and I'll be okay. I was like, man, like you are talking to every cell in my body, because my experience with mental health, anxiety, depression, stuff like that is exactly that. Like I've never had one sentence sum up my experience with mental health in such a beautiful way. Because like I get through it. Like I'm still here to talk about it. I've been through some shit. We've all been through some shit, but like I just need some time to like really hate on myself, man, and then I'll be all right. So thank you for that. Anything else you want to share about that song in particular?
I hope it connects like that with other people. You know, it's like I wanted to. Ultimately, I wrote it for myself. I felt the need to express myself in some way at that moment, but I knew it was going to become someone else's once it got released, right? Like as all the songs do. So I just hope that it does touch people like that, because it's like I want people to know that like they're not alone in those feelings, and I can't imagine, like I don't know, like I probably have some kind of depression. I've never been like diagnosed or anything like that, but it's got to be there. I think a lot more people are depressed than we actually know about, right? And I can't imagine the people that actually feel suicidal or like they want to hurt themselves. And people that go through with it, those last moments, like what are they thinking? Because once you do that, it's over. You can't. You're not coming back from that. And so when I get down, it's like I remember feeling pretty dark a few times, and just being like, this sucks. Like I don't know what I'm gonna do right now. And I'm just happy that I never took it to that point. And I can kind of give these songs to people and sort of help them cope or relate or something. Like I hope it's helping,
Yeah, well, man, it does. And I think it's really important because I know you guys kind of like dip your toe in reggae and you dip your toe in ska, and there's like a bunch of different genres. That's one of the reasons why I love your music so much. There's a song for everything, and a lot of it is good vibes and like feeling the love and all that stuff. And I love this song because I feel like it's the first one in the subsets of music that I listen to, which is a lot of bands that are in the individual genres that you play in, like bands that spur off from that. Like if Ballyhoo's the spoke or the wheel, then like the spokes of the different genres you play in. A lot of it just comes down to this, like, frankly, it feels like good vibes only. And that is so toxic. And I feel like that leaves people behind. And so I love this song for the exact reason that you said, like, I hope that this finds who needs it. Was it scary putting this out in that way?
I wasn't scared. I like, I thought people were gonna enjoy it. And I did think people were gonna connect to it because it's so raw and real. I'm really glad you brought that up about the good vibes only thing, because like, it's not all good vibes all the time, and like, when you see Instagram and stuff, I mean, I know you've heard this before, like it's all curated, right? It's all highlights, it's all the good stuff, and that's all you ever see. And, all the stuff is happening. We need to talk about it. It can't be so taboo and weird. And yes, it's a bummer. It's a downer. You don't want to necessarily bring it up at a party, and like, and I've played shows, I was doing some like private parties back in the fall, and everything's great. And people are like, hey, play I'll Be Okay. And I'm like, you really want me to bring the party down? Is that what you want? Like, I didn't want to play it because it was like, we're having a great time, So I feel like there's a time and place for it, but it's there if people want to listen to it. I'm just glad it's out. I'm actually proud and happy that we put it out, and it is so different. It represents a different side of us, and a very real side, so.
Well, and I think that kind of gives legitimacy and allows for us to fully express and experience the good times. Like that first show back, wherever it is, whenever it is, like that duality of I'll Be Okay and like mixtape or like Blaze This Weed, like the party and but like that is what we're going for. Like we've been like 2020 was I'll Be Okay, and then whatever your next track is, I hope it's soon and awesome and wonderful. And if you have spoilers, please let us know. But I'm so excited for that first show back. Like where do you see Ballyhoo going? And like, do you guys have any plans for, like, I know plans are ridiculous to make, but like what's on the horizon for the band?
Well, we've always kept, I mean, we're realistic about it, but you have to plan. So you do look ahead and you go, hey, maybe we should do this, maybe, and then it doesn't happen, but we expected that, so right now I'm thinking about, look, it's warming up. It's about to be drive-in season again. So that could be a thing. So even if we're not doing, full on, normal shows and everybody's hanging all over each other and spitting on each other and drinking and stuff, maybe we can do some drive-in shows. So that could be a thing. We're looking at like the tabled events, obviously not sexy and fun. It'll be fun, but not, but it's something. And so I just feel like people just need to have patience, and it will get there. Let's keep complying, just like, let's crush the curve, as they say, and just like get through this. We're looking at the fall, like to really turn it on. But we're hoping that late spring, summer, we're going to get some shows in.
Nice. That's amazing. Well, considering this is the virtual campfire and we're all about things, hope, healing, inspiration, we created this series when our tour got canceled last year to recreate the energy that we feel around the campfire after a long day on the trail or just camping. Do you have any outdoorsy stories that you'd like to share, or maybe a tune that you would play around the campfire if we were at one?
I don't really have any outdoorsy stories. I could play a song. That'll help.
Hey, that'll work.
Yeah, this one kind of falls in line with I think what you're talking about, like what your message is. The song's called "Message to the World," and it's like I started reading books, and like, you know, I never read before this. I can read, but I just never you know, I want to put that out there. I just never liked to read books. Like, it was just kind of like, I don't know. It takes me like, I got to read a page 3 times. You know, I've gotten better at it, but yeah, I just started reading books and kind of getting into it. And I read a book called "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday. Incredible book. If you guys haven't read it, check it out. But really started to make me think, and just like look at things differently and sort of not freak out about everything, because most things aren't important, you know, like, you know, deadlines. Yeah. Okay. I mean, is anybody going to die? You know, like just stuff like that. You know, be responsible, of course, but like, I don't know. I'm trying to look at things and tell people like, hey man, like there are bigger things, and, you know, like just perspective, you know? So that's what this song's about. In spite of the world, I still move my feet in a direction that I wanna go. I sit walking down the same old street, they call the misery the end of the road. But I won't make excuses for the things I've done, 'cause I know that it's all up to me. Oh, sooner the better when you figure it out. That's the moment that sets you free. Better listen now, so go take some chances. Don't try to be fancy. We're only here for a little while, and it's time to get out of our own way. I'm gonna make the most out of all I've been given. Let the cards fall where I lay them. 'Cause I've been making mistakes, but I swear I've been learning. I'll crawl out from the mayhem. This is a message to the world. You know this is a message to the world. Oh. You know, this is a message. I used to point the finger every time I went bad, misdirecting all my anger just because I was mad. That's unfair to others when you're trying to help, and it's so good for my health, I had to work on myself, yeah. These are the things that you learn from experience, creating drama for no reason and it's killing us. Stop freaking out over the things you can't control. That's the demons in your soul and you're feeding them. So go take some chances. Don't try to be fancy. We're only here for a little while, and it's time to get out of our own way. I'm gonna make the most out of all I've been given. Let the cards fall where I lay them. 'Cause I've been making mistakes, but I swear I've been learning. I'll crawl out from the mayhem. This is a message to the world. You know this is a message to the world, hey. I'm gonna make the most out of all I've been given. Let the cards fall where I lay them. 'Cause I've been making mistakes, but I swear I've been learning. I'll crawl out from the mayhem. This is a message to the world. know this is a message to the world, a message to the world. You know, this is a message. Hey.
Yes, sir. Okay. That is a message to the world. I love that song so much, and it's really fun to hear you sing it live. So for our virtual campfire, we make a playlist for all the artists that join us. So we have it on Spotify. We'll obviously add the songs you played, I'll Be Okay, and Message to the World. But for a lot of the folks that are in our programs that are listening to this podcast and listening to this music, this is their first introduction to these bands. So what is your taste of Ballyhoo favorite song that you would recommend for somebody who hasn't ever heard Ballyhoo before?
I gotta say, the numbers don't lie. You gotta listen to Walk Away or Social Drinker.
Perfect.
Those two tracks. Yeah, they're the ones.
I love it. Walk Away and Social Drinker. Adding it to the list. I'm a fan. So where can folks hang out with you? Where can they stay in touch? What's coming up in the immediate, I know we're talking hopefully late spring, early summer for something, definitely in the fall, hopefully for drive-ins. But what do you guys got on your radar for the next month or so? You guys got anything cool coming up?
Working on new music. Probably gonna have something out, I think, next month. We're gonna have a single out, and then followed by a bunch of singles after that, which will be great. So new music. And then I'm hanging out here all the time, streaming. I just started streaming video games. That's awesome. That's fun. I was trying to figure out how can I work video games into my career. So I'm starting a Twitch channel. So I did that. That's been rad.
Nice.
But I do that. I do this. I play guitar and sing, and people chime in, and I just hang out and we drink, and take shots, and I'm in the chat and doing that. I have a podcast, Tales from the Green Room podcast. So I talk about my time in the music industry and many other things, kind of stuff about my life. I have a YouTube channel, Howi Spangler, just putting up videos, vlogs, whatever. I'm also picking up, I'm doing private parties. If anybody wants me out there for the private party, acoustic, hit up the agent. And yeah, I did it back in the fall for about 3 months and just played a bunch of parties on the weekends, and it was great. It was fun. Just, small events, and just people hanging out. It was great. So doing that, and I'm just always busy. I'm always doing stuff. So.
Well, if you find yourself out in Southern California, you'll have to swing by the Reggae Ranch and come say hi to us and jam
awesome.
a little bit there. Yeah. So thank you so much for being here. It was so awesome seeing you and not being dragged out to get medics to give me medical attention. I like the music this way a little bit better. This is fun. So thank you so much, Howi. And if you are free to stick around, our next segment is our group gratitude circle, where we go around with all our folks on Zoom. These are people that are in our programs, people that donate to our organization, that are members of our group called the Summit Circle, where they get access to the Zoom to hang out with awesome folks like yourself. So Zoom folks, if you're here, pop on your camera. And Howi, I'd love to hear you kick us off. What are you thankful for?
I am thankful for my awesome, beautiful family and the fact that I can support them with my passion, my love for, creativity, music, art, whatever. Super thankful for that. That's every day. Just grateful.
I was going to ask you, did Ballyhoo have to go get jobs? Or are you guys figuring it out?
We're figuring it out. The fans have been super awesome with the donations and buying the merch. I mean, we became online retailers all of a sudden. It's just you just got to roll with the punches, man. So that's what we did. So big thanks to the fans.
Awesome. Thank you. Ashley, what are you thankful for? Oh my gosh, look at your pup.
I am thankful for my body today because I've been moving and I've been doing it all by myself, and I got a whole bunch of shit over here today. So that's good. I'm also really thankful to have seen Howi. I saw you at One Love, I think it was 2017 or 2018. And it was honestly, your set of that whole festival was one of my absolute favorites. And it was timeline wise, it would have been essentially, One Love weekend, this weekend or next. And so it's kind of a little bit of, a little taste of it. So that was really awesome.
Oh, that's so cool. Those shows are so fun. I'm glad you were there.
They're the best.
Thank you, Ashley. Sweets, what are you thankful for?
Hey, I am so thankful today for the healing power of music and community and just the humans that come on these calls that I've never experienced their vibe before in this intimate type of way. It's never ceased to amaze me, and we come together and create this healing space together. Thank you, Howie and Tim and everybody who's not here anymore, but thank you, Howie. That is exactly what I needed today.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Sweets. Laura, what are you thankful for?
So I really, through both of these people, the connections that they've made, you know, Tim talked about his connections that really changed the direction of his life. And, you know, Howie, you talked about your connections through your music. And I just really am feeling like the whole connected thing, you know, and how I'm very thankful for our connections, even, you know, in this very weird, isolated world that we're living in right now. But yeah, so, and Howie, some of these lyrics, I was looking up some of the lyrics, they are amazing. So definitely connecting with your lyrics here right now.
Thanks a
So
lot. Appreciate that.
appreciative of it.
Alicia, how about you? What are you thankful for?
Hi, I am grateful. First of all, Sydney, I'm really grateful for you for creating this platform for just amazingness. Feels really good to, I forget what you said, have a like soft place to land and a firm place to grow. Howie, your lyrics are amazing. Music is phenomenal. I too feel like this is exactly what I needed today. Thank you so much. Music is so healing to me and so powerful, and super stoked. So thank you.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yay, thank you, Alicia.
Thank
And
you.
Mary, what are you thankful for?
I'm grateful for both Howie and Tim sharing their stories today. I had a few aha moments listening to each of them. Just different things that I was pondering on today that I just couldn't really settle my mind on where I was going with it. And each of them kind of helped connect some dots for me. So that was really cool. I was not expecting that at all. And I'm really grateful for that. So thank you.
My job is done. Yay. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. For all the folks on YouTube, we'll wave bye to the people on YouTube, and for